share my screen. So it's not recording through Teams, it's recording through Camtasia because we're working in Glow here just now. Okay, so I'm hoping that you can see that. So this is the second session of our GamesCon series. So thanks very much everyone for coming along. And what is it we're going to be looking at this afternoon? So because we've got some people on the call who weren't here for the first session, we're going to have a wee recap about what GamesCon is and what the competition is about this year. So apologies to you if you've maybe done it already or if you were at the first meeting, because this is going to be a little bit of repetition for you. Then Jim's going to look at a bit of coding to get you started and get your teams off to a good start. And we're delighted to have Marie here from Macduff Marine Aquarium, and she's going to chat a wee bit about what the aquarium are offering in terms of support for your teams and how to reach out to the aquarium there as well, because our competition is based all around producing a game for them. And then finally, we've got a wee bit of time at the end where you can ask any questions to get a bit of clarity maybe, or reassurance or anything. Or if you've started, perhaps you've started already. Charlene, I know you were here for the last meeting. You can maybe let us know how you're getting on so far and if there's anything you need a bit of help with. So, what is GamesCon? GamesCon is a competition set up by the LoveLearning team where we give you a challenge which asks your pupils to code something using the program Scratch. And as you'll know already, that Scratch is a free programming language and it's aimed for children between 8 to 16 years old. They can create interactive stories, games, animations and so on. And because it's been designed with children in mind, it's really easy to use. And Jim will show you a wee bit about that in his next bit. And there are different ways in which you can take part in the competition. So you might decide that you have a focus on coding within your lessons. So you want to have GamesCon as the context for that and split your class into smaller working groups. Jim, are you able to let people in? Because you're a presenter now.
Oh, sorry, I'm in
Is
a
that
different
okay?
screen there. Yeah, I will.
Thank you.
Anybody waiting there, no?
There was somebody just popped up saying someone was in the lobby. Can you see it?
No, I'll just go and check though, so you're okay.
Is that okay? Cool. Thank you.
It's okay, I let them in.
Oh, perfect. Thanks, Marie. So you might decide you're going to have a focus on coding within your lessons. So you have GamesCon as the context for that, and you would split your class up into smaller working groups. Or you might have an after school or a lunchtime club. Miss Ritchie, you were speaking about that, how you've got a code club. So that's a perfect place for doing it as well. You've already got that set up. And then the pupils who are attending that can work away at it. So we want them to work in teams of 4. And within those teams, you'll be looking at having individuals with different strengths because there's more to this than just the coding side of it. So it's a project that your groups are going to need to work away on over the course of the whole session. And then when they're ready, they will submit this in term 4, ready for the GamesCon final, which will take place at RGU. And you see I've got the date up there on the screen. And that's where we'll decide on our winners. So we would encourage you to encourage your pupils to record what they're doing. So you might want to set up a team for them, or a OneNote notebook, or have a blog or something where they'll put all their ideas, record minutes of meetings and things like that, so that they've got this journey that they're tracking from start to finish, because we'll be looking at that during the final. But maybe give them that freedom to decide for themselves how they would like to do that. You know, maybe they feel more comfortable using Teams, but then on the other hand, you might have a group that's more comfortable using a blog. So because it's their project, let them decide how they want to do that. Because at the end of the day, it's not just going to be that finished product that we're going to look at. It's going to be all that work that's leading up to it. And this product is ultimately going to be something that the aquarium are going to use. So the teams really need to think about how they're going to sell that product as well. So within the teams, there's not just the coding to think about, like I mentioned. We need to think about those different skills. And that's the same for any team, isn't it? You need different members with different skills that work together in order for that finished product to be a success. And we're not expecting to have everyone in the team all great at the coding side. Maybe they will be if you're doing a coding after school club, but you do need those other people in the team, the organisers, those leaders who are going to take the minutes of the meeting, keep your blog up to date, record that journey in some way. You're going to need creative people in that group who are coming up with the idea, how to progress it, what's going to happen here and next. And your artistic ones who maybe design those promotional materials, maybe design wee characters and that you can then upload to go into your game and so on. So it is that whole package that we're looking for, that we want to see. So like I said, the competition culminates in that final event that's held at Robert Gordon University. And for the actual GamesCon event, we are limited with how many we can have in the venue. So, I mean, at the moment, if we've only got 3 people signing up, then I don't think it's going to be a problem. But if we do get more, then if you're doing it as a class, or if you've got more than one class in the school that are doing it, then you're going to need to look at having a mini competition to decide who the overall winner is for your school. And it would be that particular team that you would send along to the event. So for the event, your team are going to be well prepared because they'll have been working on this over the course of the year, so they're going to know their idea and their game inside out. They'll bring with them all of that evidence of their journey. They'll have any materials that they've created to promote their game, any materials that they'll have to put into the game, and anything else that they feel would help them. Once they get to the final, the pupils need to recreate their game on the day so that we can see that coding in action and we can see that they understand the process that they're working through. And it also allows us to see their problem-solving skills and their ability to work under that wee bit of pressure that's put on them being in that environment and working under competition rules. So, what's the focus of this year's competition all about? So you've probably had a wee heads up from the email that I sent out, or if you came along to the last one. But we've linked the competition to our Fish in Transition project. So if you are doing this project, then GamesCon is already built into it, and you'll find that within the Macduff Marine Aquarium section on the STEM Transition blog. However, if you're not doing Fish in Transition, perhaps maybe you teach primary 6 or you're doing a club or senior phaser, for example, then don't worry, you can still take part in what we're doing. But if you are at that P7S1 stage, then we would recommend that you maybe have a little look at Fish in Transition and do it, because there's loads of resources in there and you don't have to worry about coming up with lots of stuff yourself. Anyway, Fish in Transition and GamesCon are both linked to the Global Sustainable Goals, and we've got a focus within GamesCon directly on Goal 14, which is life below water. And with the Transition project, we've been working closely with the RAISE officers, so you might know Kim and Caroline. We've also been working with Karen from the Devon Rivers Trust, and of course Marie here from Macduff Marine Aquarium. And for GamesCon, we wanted the pupils to produce something that a real audience could interact with. So we had got in touch with Marie at the aquarium and asked if they would be interested in us running a competition where the pupils could create something that visitors to the aquarium could actually use. So real live people. So we want the teams to create a game or an animation in Scratch that's going to teach others about an aspect of Global Goal 14. And the winning teams will have that great honour of their game being used in the aquarium by those visitors that will come in, and they'll be prompted to scan a QR code during their visit and play the game and learn about how they can take care of life below water and why it's so important. And I'm sure Marie will tell you that the aquarium get thousands of visitors every year from right the way around the world. So the winners really have got this global audience for their game, which makes it very special, and it gives it a real importance and purpose to the task. There are 10 targets within the goal, so there's lots of scope, but you probably want to focus in on the first 5 as they really lend themselves to the project. So all of this has gone through in more detail on the Digital Pedagogy Hub. Let me just go on to that. These are the 5 global goals here. So I went over those last time. You can investigate those a bit more for yourself. Really easy to find them online and to read a bit more about them. You probably just want to focus in on one. And here's the Digital Pedagogy Hub, and we can add you into that in the next few days because it was supposed to go live, but it's not quite live yet. But in here we've got a whole section on GamesCon, and it tells you about the links to different aspects of the Curriculum for Excellence, and more detail about the competition and how you can go about the whole process of it. And when you've decided you want to take part, I've got a link to a form here, which I'll also pop into the chat in a wee bit. And you just click on it to register, and that just registers your interest. And then we can keep you up to date with all things GamesCon. Just use whichever email address you prefer for that. It doesn't matter if it's your Glow address or if it's your corporate or a home address, just whichever one you prefer, just so that we can keep you up to date. So that's really all from me. Just now I'm going to hand over to Jim, who's going to give you some coding tips. So I will stop sharing my screen. Oh, I'll have to come out of this.
I'll put my microphone on. Disaster, look, I picked up a red pen. Look, it's just leaked everywhere. So anyway, right. So yeah, so the GamesCon is a well-trodden route now. And people like Michael know the stuff that's involved in that. And if I just give you a little insight into what, first of all, Julia and I will have nothing to do with the judging. The judging's all done independently by RGU staff, by programmers. We might even get somebody from the aquarium to come along to judge stuff, to look at the fishiness of it and that sort of idea, and the sustainability ideas around that. So we don't have anything to do with the judging, but we can put our comments into what we've seen. What we have seen is maybe of concern to the schools, because the schools are all very worried, maybe not Charlene so much, but the schools are generally all worried about the coding. And oh my goodness, I don't know about the coding, and coding. And lots of work goes into the coding. And we think then the documentation, that slips a bit. The marketing is certainly a really important thing. I'm sure Marie would agree that if you didn't market the aquarium, nobody would come to it. So if you don't market your game, no one's going to be interested in your game. So the marketing is very important. So as we've gone round each of the tables to see how the teams have got on, a big focus was on the actual coding and the game or animation that they produced. And yet the marks that are allocated, can't remember what they are now, for the game is maybe 5 marks more than the marketing and the documentation and the enthusiasm, all the bits and pieces that we look at. And there's a list that we share with you, marking criteria. In fact, it might be on the blog, I can't remember. So that's the key thing to think about, that when you introduce this to your pupils, I think there's quite a lot of meetings before they get to the computer and start to do coding. They've got to think, what do we want to do? They might get to the computer and look at sustainable goals, think about what do we want to do. It's an animation, it's a game. If it's a game, what's that game going to be? Catching fish or whatever. that's the kind of stuff they've got to brainstorm at the beginning. And we want to see the evidence of those brainstorming sessions to how that product has developed. And that's why the GamesCon is very close, and the standard of the games is not superb. We're not expecting a Call of Duty or anything like that. But because the focus has been on the games and the coding, and there's been a worry about that, the actual final product has not been as good as I think the youngsters could do, because they haven't really thought about the problem that we're doing. So I would encourage you all to encourage your youngsters to think carefully about what they're going to do and spend a bit of time developing and thinking about what their product's going to be and how they can sell it, how they're going to play it, and so on. And that would get them more marks, and we'd certainly get a better overall product at the end of that. The stuff kids do is great for what they do. It's really, really good. But we could see that it was missing that kind of the ordinary input, the stuff that the teachers do day in, day out about how we're going to promote and how we're going to develop a product, that kind of idea. So that was that. So the documentation, the marketing, the artworks, all very important, and we want to see that. We want them to bring along a folder or a digital folio of all these meetings, all the bits and pieces. We want to see how many mistakes they've made. We want to see how they've adapted their game because they thought, oh, we can't do this. Let's go to something else. We want to see all that. Right, so that was all that. Okay, so then we've got to think about the coding and how do we do a little bit about the competition. So the secondary school is slightly different, not slightly different. You've got the same brief. However, we'd like to see probably more innovation from the secondary school. So can we use a microbit or some sort of controller to control the game as well? Is there a peripheral we could use to help work that game? So it might be that the game, when it goes, if they win that and the game goes up to the aquarium, that they've got to provide a PS2 controller or something to actually work the game, or you do have a microbit that's plugged into the GamesCon, into the telly, and that's how that's working. So things like that to think about as well. Have you got any peripherals we could add could help to control the game? Can we make it a two-player game by using different microbits and so on? Because the secondary schools, you know, Charlene, you've all got 20 and more microbits arrived, but 20 arrived just recently. So we're looking for a little bit more from the secondary schools, because if they take part, we've had quite low turnout of secondary schools, so really want to see a bit more, because there's that transition. We've got youngsters, and we did have lots and lots of teams throughout the years, but that didn't reflect into what we're happening in secondary schools. So we really want to see more secondary schools. That would be great. Okay, so what kind of things we're looking for? So, and what kind of things are you looking to do? So if I go to my email thing here, not my email, my screen. You should be able to see my screen, do you? Yep. Okay, so the first thing is we're going to be using Scratch. Now, Scratch is available as downloaded onto your computer, so you don't need any internet access to use Scratch. Just log a call with IT and you get, I think, Scratch 3 will be loaded onto your computer, so ready for youngsters to use whilst they're in school. And Scratch has lots and lots. I'll put these links in to the chat, or I'll send these links to you. Scratch has got loads and loads of things and tutorials for the kids to look at. So when they're looking at that, their project, they want to spend a bit of time looking about, seeing what they can do. And you can see in Scratch here, this gives you little exercises how to do bits and pieces in a Scratch animation. So I get a Scratch program or animation. So this gives them bits and pieces to do. So you as a teacher, you're not really having to worry about, oh my God, I don't know anything about loops, I don't know anything about conditionals, this, that, the next thing, because the youngsters have got a whole range of stuff they can be looking at. So they want to animate the sprites, they want to have that little girl kicking the ball. So in here then there'll be a little video about, that's a little video telling you how to do it. And then this here will be, as you work your way through the video, you add the sprites in and that'll eventually animate that sprite. So there's lots and lots of activities that you don't have to know about, but the youngsters should be able to find. Now it's important that when they're, I've lost my bit here, I've lost my Scratch bit. It's important that when they're thinking about their, I'm shutting down all my tabs. It's important that when they're thinking about their game, the youngsters will only get 2 hours when they get to RGU to actually replicate their game. So that Michael know that, and Julia knows that, and I'm not sure if anybody else in the call has been to the GamesCon. So that's quite a busy time. But that gives time for all the other people, the admin people, the marketing people, the graphics people to put out their stall, as well as generally a couple of people are coding the game, because you get a couple of hours to code the game. Because as Julia said, what we don't want is the youngsters to just come along with a finished game that has just been completely ripped off from some site somewhere and say, here we are, that's our game. We want the youngsters to actually code it. So we want to see evidence of their coding. So that means then in the coding world, they have to produce the algorithms that are going to go with that. We call it pseudocode. They need that pseudocode that shows how that code's been created. So at any point, the programmers from RGU or people from maybe we had games people in before, games people, they might ask the youngsters what that code might do. Now we don't want that embarrassment of them being like gasping fish and thinking, oh, what does that code do? Because they will have looked at the algorithm, they looked at the pseudocode, they'll know exactly what that code's got to do. And we've tried every year to say to, because we have had complaints, oh, we don't want to be typing out code for 2 hours. Well, neither do we want you to be typing out code for 2 hours. So if they bring the pseudocode along, and Charlie will know, it's a simple matter to translate that plan of the program into code. But they'll have coded it so many times, they'll know what it's about. So that's why we make it. They have to code. They have to bring in they have to code the whole thing on the day. So we get the actual thing. So in 2 hours, there's plenty of time for them to do that. Anyway, so that's the pseudocode is very, very important. And I don't think we've seen that really in anybody that's come along. We've never seen a proper plan of the code that they are implementing on the computer. So that means then these poor kids have got to remember what they were coding. And a lot of times it's gone a bit pear-shaped. The good thing to see is that youngsters from other teams have helped the other teams, which is really good. But we don't want that. We want to see the youngsters that are coding it have a plan and be able to simply transfer that plan onto the screen, and that'd be really good. So pseudocode is very, very important. Okay, so other bits. So we have the Scratch site. The Scratch site is amazing. Lots and lots of tutorials on there. Then we have Out of Code, which is another great site, Out of Code. And an Out of Code site, there's lots and lots of resources here as well. So in activities here, we can scroll down here and you can see lots and lots of activities here. So if I go to Mario's Secret Adventure, whatever that is, it'll tell me what to do. Again, I click on the Out of Code. That'll take me to a video, I think. It's taking me to another place. And then it's telling me how to do some coding. So Mario here, in the pseudocode here, has got to go forward maybe one step, turn left, and go forward one step and collect a coin. So if we click that here, it hopefully start to tell us what we're doing. Read instructions, and so you can see we're getting simple information here. Yeah, get off. Once we get past the adverts, read instructions. Okay, next. Click on the next slide button. So we're getting, yeah, skip. So what we want to do is, when clicked, what do we want to do? Well, we want to go forward one step. Now, these are simple instructions. Now, in Scratch, that will be move forward a number of steps. But the youngsters are getting the ideas of how to sequence events in the correct sequence. And then I don't see a pickup block here, but if I click on run, I click on run, that'll get a move in. Is it going to work? I don't know how this works. You're in the way, Julia. Oh, there's a play here. So play, and it turns, and he should move forward again. Come on, move forward. Why did you not move forward? Oh, I'm not told it to move forward. Kidding me. So, and then we click run, and that should make him move forward again and pick up his coin. So that's teaching the youngsters simple sequencing for that piece of the program there. And in Scratch, it's just the same as well. You have to sequence everything into the right orders. And as we saw here, there are lots and lots of resources here the kids can be looking at and getting some ideas. And Save the Forest could easily become Clean Up the Sea or something. So you get some ideas for that. So that's Out of Code. We've got we've also got microbit, which went away here, microbit. All the schools have got microbits. Now, we're not saying that microbits would be used because we want to be used in Scratch, but again, it's the idea of how are we doing the code. Let's look at the code. So if we want to have, if we want to make some sort of random selector in your Scratch game for a dice, so we're clicking a button, it's what wind force will the fishing boat go out into at sea, and it goes from 1 to 9 or something, and then we can say, okay, let's have a look at the blocks code for that, because that's going to be exactly the same, and then we're going to get an idea then how to start doing that. So that's telling us what we need, and it's going to give us the code for that. So again, we've got a different piece of hardware, slightly different piece of software because it's blocks, but it's exactly the same thing we're going to be thinking about. When we write in Scratch for a loop, we'll write some, in Scratch it's blocks. So in Scratch it'll be using the blocks as well. So you'll get to see all that as well. And the kids don't need a microbit because they can test it all in here. I think it'll get a show number block. So that'll be in math, I think. No, it's not input, not basic, show number. Put it into the on shake. Where's on shake? There's no on shake block there. There's no on shake block. So where the on shake block is. Anyway, so maybe I never put that in. So place the on shake block. There it is. I missed it there. And we put in the other bit, which was that one. So we can see we can start to build up the code. And this is a bit like Scratch because we've got different bits of code that do different bits of things. And if I shake it here, it's giving me a number. Because it does not specify what number. Okay, so that's microbit, lots and lots of stuff there. And the other thing which is excellent, and what I wanted to show you on my iPad, but I can't because I've just rebuilt it, was Swift Playgrounds. Swift Playgrounds is really good for you as a teacher because then you got to think, okay, we want to be doing the Scratch character wants to turn around 4 times for some reason. So rather than go turn left, turn left, turn left, turn left, turn left, lots and lots of times. You might want to put in a function for that, or you might want to put in a loop that allows that to be done, and so on. And the Swift programming language is really good because it takes you through exactly all the commands that computing teachers love to see. So functions, loops, parameters, conditional code. So if the sprite is at the end of the screen, then shout help, then display help or something. So all that kind of stuff, that's all there. And that's free on the iPads. So you can have the youngsters working through code on the iPads. So they're learning bits and pieces of code, and they're learning about loops, functions, parameters, types, and so on. They're learning all about that. So Swift Playgrounds is very good. And for yourself as a teacher, if you happen to have an iPad, then the Swift Playground ebooks are excellent. They cover everything in detail. So there's lots and lots of ways for you to be looking at how to be facilitating the code, and maybe having different youngsters in the class in your computing clubs or your classes. I've got an iPad. Okay, let's use this with code. Oh, well, let's look at this microbit, see what this does, and you've got a couple other people doing Scratch. Doesn't matter you're all doing different languages, because at the end of the day, you're going to bring them together and say, right, now we're going to focus on the project. Here's what we're going to do. And the youngsters will have learned a loop is this kind of syntax. The youngsters will have learned that whether on a microbit or a Swift Playground, the code is just looks slightly different, but we're doing the same thing. But they would have their plan in their jotters. So they'd go through that in stages. And that's how we look at that coding part. Now, the benefit for all of that is that, when I get back to my thingy here, I'm going to find the screen. Here we are. Here we are. No, it's not that one. That screen here. So the beauty of that is that if you've done this in a structured way, so you've started the youngsters off, think about what they're going to do, really problem solving, really digging deep into what do you want to an animation, what message do you want to do? Is it going to be something about how are we protecting the seabeds from trawling? Is it going to be an animation about trawler drivers or trawler captains and all that kind of stuff? Thinking about all that. Is it going to be a game? What's that game we want to do? We want to clean the seabed, so we want some sort of robot thing that's going to go and pick up pieces, and we've got a 2-player game, and we can add in scores, and we can get the highest score and so on. Or is it, well, I don't know, it could be anything. Your kids will come up with something great. But you have to think about that first. I think all too often they dive in, they're going to create an animation, and the animation generally turns out pretty pants, and it doesn't work. So have a think about what they do, because most of the marks are going to be around that thinking, that preparing, and then getting the code. And finally, we have had seen some really good games coming to us, because the gatekeepers for this, if there's lots and lots of people, would be Julia and myself. We have to sit and look at the games to say, okay, which one's the best one from the cluster? And we've had some great games from clusters that we have not had a clue how to work because they've not come with any instructions. So you end up thinking, well, that must be the start button, and you click and then you get yourself into a loop and you've no idea what to do. So another really important thing is think about the user and put some instructions in. And whilst you're thinking about the user, I think once we've had one game that had some accessibility functions as well, we could make the text bigger. I can't remember. So think, is that something we could do, or can we use a different language and all that kind of stuff? So that was it. I haven't shown you any code because I don't want to confuse you, because the first few weeks is going to be thinking about the product. And as you come back again, in the next few weeks, we'll maybe show you how to do a loop or do some simple stuff in Scratch. So hopefully that's been okay. Any questions?
Well, will we get Marie to do her wee bit, and then we'll take some questions at the end, because Jacqueline's got a wee question in the chat as well. Jim, do you want to stop sharing your screen? It's a bit off-putting seeing myself twice.
All right,
that's better, thank you. So
stereo.
Yeah, thanks, Jim. I'll hand over to you, Marie, so you can tell us a little bit about what the aquarium was proposing.
Sure. Okay. Well, thank you very much. And hello, everybody. My name is Marie Dare. I'm the learning officer at the aquarium. Has everybody been to the aquarium? Is everybody familiar with it? Just put a thumbs up or something. That's two. Yes, yes. Excellent. Okay, so I think we'll assume that most of you have. That's great. So hopefully in your visit you were able to ascertain that we are a native aquarium, and it's laid out in a habitats trail so that you can move through native habitats as if you were going from shallow coastal environment into the deep sea. And so what I'm proposing to offer is support for any of the theory that will underpin the idea or the concepts behind the game in terms of the goal in fitting in with the sustainable goals number 14, life underwater. So I can make myself available to you or other members of the team, and we can organize virtual sessions so that you can have a virtual tour of the aquarium or virtual habitats, or discuss, if the kids have questions, we can do a live Q&A session, and I can help with any of the science behind it. Ocean acidification is one of the top things under the number 14 goal as something that we need to tackle, and that's something that the aquarium will be focusing quite a lot on next year as far as our educational remit goes. So if you need any support with that, I do have some nice hands-on activities that I can provide, little experiments that you can do to have the science foundation nice and sound, so then you can use that to conceptualize for how you can translate the information that you want to share into a game format so that it makes it fun, because that's what will engage with our visitors, and that's what we're really looking for here, something that is educational but fun at the same time. So in terms of the reach that the game would see, the exposure, once it's in place for the winning group, so we have approximately 45,000 visitors a year at the aquarium, and as Julia mentioned, that is people from all over the world. Of course, the majority of our visitors are quite local, and we do have a really high percentage of repeat visitors as well. So it's really nice for us to be able to offer something new and something that visitors can engage with in a new way as well. So that's why this game is particularly appealing for us. If appropriate, we can also market the game through our website and social media channels. And again, we do have quite a good reach on those. So our website sees approximately 30,000 users every year. We have a following on Facebook of 14,400 followers and a reach of about 45,000. And we're building up on Instagram, so just about 1,000 followers at the moment, but that's quite a new account. We've only had it for a couple of years. So yeah, if you would like any support with the science or the conceptualization behind the game, do get in touch, and I'm sure my contact information is on the blog as well, but if not, just email the aquarium and you'll be directed towards me. And yeah, that's it for me.
Perfect. Thanks very much, Marie. Yeah, so it's really exciting hearing all those numbers and how far reaching your games can actually go. And yeah, we can put your contact detail. I think we've got your contact details on the Fish in Transition blog, so you can get in touch with Marie there. But really easy to get in touch with the aquarium anyway. Just put in a Google search for the aquarium and stuff will come up, and just ask for Marie. So now we've got a little bit of time left for questions, and I see Jacqueline, you've said you popped back today to check whether we're okay to focus on a river, so the River Dee rather than the sea. Basically, your focus is going to be around that whole life below water. So you're wanting to try and engage people with your game to think about how they could protect our seas and rivers. So if it has got that river part to it, that's okay, because like Marie said, when you go through the aquarium, there is this journey from the river to the estuary to the sea that goes on. So that would be okay. Maybe just bear in mind that for the aquarium in particular, they've got the Devon running into there, but you could maybe have something that's general about rivers and how we can protect the waters. Does that sound okay? And has anybody got any other questions? Thanks, Jackie. Any other questions that anybody's come up with? No? Going once? That's fine. So if you do come up with anything, you know where myself and Jim are. Just get in touch. Fiona, we have managed to record this, so we will share the recording, so you can see what was said at the start. I'll just have to get it sorted. Yeah, sorry, Jim.
Yeah, I was just about to say, I don't think that it's going to be the latest and all singing, dancing game. We know it's kids that are creating this. We do expect amazing things, but these amazing things are generally their ideas. Because I think RGU will be able to take those. If the game looks quite primitive, but the ideas are great, I think RGU will be able to translate that into something they'll be quite proud of when they see that game. So it's getting that enthusiasm from the youngsters, get them to have a go, and if you get stuck with your coding, give us a shout. Just give us a shout. But honestly, for the next few weeks, it's thinking about what you want to do. And as Jacqueline said, was it Jackie? Jackie, you're thinking about the river. So your youngsters are obviously thinking about that whole Braemar to the Dee kind of thing. How are we protecting life under the sea in the Dee? Because there's lots of people probably causing damage to the river at the shallow points in the River Dee and so on. And that has an effect further downstream. So it's great that we're all thinking about that, which is good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and if you think about what Marie said as well about acidification, if you think of runoff into rivers from farms and so on, all that can be linked in, and that's eventually ending up in our ocean. So it's all very relevant. Mike, you've got your hand up.
Yeah, it was just say, is there a written brief somewhere? How do I get to the written brief for what we need to do?
So it's on the Digital Pedagogy Hub, and we're going to add you all to that because it was supposed to have gone live just before the holidays, but it's not quite live yet. So we'll add you guys all to it. Okay. Fiona said as well that she's tried to open the form. So Jim, you're going to have to change the permissions on the form,
it seemed to work in Glow. I tried it with my Glow one and it worked,
okay.
but not my Aberdeenshire one.
Perfect.
Is that what you're having, Fiona? Is that this you're having?
No, I'm through Glow.
Mm.
All right.
So I don't know why.
I'll have a look, Fiona. I'll have a look.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Emma, regular meets online. So I can't remember off the top of my head when the next meeting is. I think we had 4 planned for the session. I just have to look it up.
I will be keen once these we don't want to give any trade secrets away between the teams, but just sharing what you think is great work from each of your teams, that might just spur other people that are in the meeting on to think, well, that's a good idea. We'll take that back to the team and see what they think.
Yeah.
Because honestly, the thing it comes down to is how much work have the youngsters put into the thinking about and developing the programme. That's what it comes down to.
Yeah, because one of the things I didn't mention this time round was that we've asked Robert Gordon's if they would take the game and make it aquarium ready, if you like. So make it ready for the public. So it'll still be the child's game, but it'll just have that bit of finesse to it. Yeah.
It'll be pimped.
Pimp the game. Yeah.
Pimp my game.
Yeah. So Emma, our next session is on the 31st of January, and then we've got another one on the 18th of April before the final that takes place on the 20th of June. But yeah, if there's anything else, please just get in touch. So you can either get in touch with Jim through james.mclean@aberdeenshire.gov.uk or myself, which is julia.rickard@aberdeenshire.gov.uk, or even just email the LoveLearning email address, because we've got our inbox there and that's checked every day. Or email Marie if you want any fishy help. Okay, so if there aren't any other questions, or were you going to say something else, Jim?
Yeah, I was going to say we will be probably doing a bombard of all the schools to say, come on, we need to get more people involved. This is a great thing for the kids, coding, working together. It's all the 21st century skills, but it's also got that real live look to current issues and conservation and protecting the environment and so on, which is high on everybody's list. It's even moved Rishi Sunak to actually go to the COP meeting. So if it's moved the Prime Minister to think about the environment, then I think we could show him up in Aberdeenshire, yeah. And what Julie was saying about the rivers, Jack, you would have heard today that at Bankery they've all been in trouble because the builders have discharged loads of mud, I think, into the water of the Dee, and they're worried now about the perils. I didn't know we had perils in the River Dee. I'll have to go fishing, looking for them and sell them. For the peril banks or whatever they're called. What are they called? Peril? Is there a word for it? Peril banks or peril clusters? Anyway, they've got some of that in the Dee, and they're worried that might affect the peril, the sea life there. So, yeah, okay. All exciting stuff.
Perfect. Oh, well, all that remains to be said is thanks very much for coming along, everyone. Get in touch if you need to. Thanks very much, Marie, for coming in and your input too. That's been really great. So take care, enjoy the rest of your evening, and we'll see you next time. Thank you.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.
You.
Bye.